longer. We're joined by the filmmaker Ben Godar of Birth of the Cyhawk and Cyhawk trophy designer Bob Utes. Welcome, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Ben, let's start with this documentary that you've made, and it's available at you can see the trailer for the movie at cyhawkdocumentary.com.
Yep, that's right.
cyhawkdocumentary.com. You can also look that up on Facebook, and we'll put some links there. So, Ben, why did you want to make a documentary on the Cyhawk Trophy? It's a pretty narrow focus.
It is, and as Bob, who's here with me today, is one of the prime creators of the trophy, and Bob also happened to be one of my high school history professor or teachers. So that's, I think, kind of how I got to know him and got to know his family. So I was lucky enough to learn the story just from kind of knowing them personally about these, kind of really just a group of ordinary guys who created this trophy. And as I got older and as I talked to people, I just kind of came to realize that most people didn't know the story, and to me, it just seemed like such a cool story and such a story that really everybody in Iowa should know. So then, at a certain point, I'm sitting there thinking, boy, somebody should make a film out of this, and then I'm thinking, wait a minute, I'm a filmmaker, I know the story. So,
So, are you old enough to remember the time when there was no Iowa State game?
No,
okay, because you don't look that old. Well, but that's kind of what makes this an interesting project, is that there's more than a story to the trophy. There's also the story of this state rivalry that didn't used to be, or was on hiatus for a long time. And I guess that's probably I was just watching your trailer. That's going to be a pretty integral part of this story, is kind of explaining how it came back, right? The game.
Yeah, and I think, and that's something that fascinated me about it as well. As a young kid, growing up, I lived in Marion when I was younger, so I kind of became a Hawkeye fan. Then we actually moved to Ames, so I was kind of like the kid in Ames who was, going to school wearing Hawkeye gear, like the only kid on that day. But the Iowa State game was just such a it was like a pivotal point of the year. It was like a holiday almost, and so. That really struck me too, just to realize that even just maybe 10 years before then,
right.
This
you had to imagine a time when the game didn't exist,
right?
This huge game,
and it's just and I think for most Iowans now, it's just almost hard to imagine that game wouldn't exist. So the fact that it didn't for so long was really striking.
So Bob Utes, take us back to that time. The game comes back. The Cyhawk game comes back in 1977,
right? So
coincidentally, Earl Bruce is the coach at Iowa State at that time, and we learned today that Earl Bruce passed away. So what do you remember about getting this rivalry renewed, and how did you get involved?
Well, first of all, it actually took a threat by the Iowa legislature to get them together. Bill Reichart, former All-American at Iowa,
Iowa, yep.
When he was in the Iowa Senate, proposed legislation to drive them back together. Anyhow, it finally got done, and in 1977 we were approaching what was going to be the first of 6 games. They were only signed up to play 6 games. In fact, 5 of the 6 games in Iowa City.
How long had the gap been since the game had been played?
The last time they'd met before 77 was 1934, so 43 years. That's interesting. Just quickly, when they meet this fall, this will be the 42nd straight meeting now since the series was renewed. So you have to be like 50 years older to remember when they didn't play, and turn that around. Back in 1977, wow, anybody that had seen him play in 34 was probably not at the stadium in 77. Anyhow. We were all looking forward to it, and in the fall of 77, late fall, early winter, I don't remember exactly when, we're driving back out to Adel, my wife, my boys, and I was talking about the game. I was thinking about, next fall. It was near the end of that year's football season, and we were thinking, next fall, we're going to get to see Iowa and Iowa State play. And it just occurred to me, there ought to be a trophy for that game. I'm a college football fan. I know about the old Oaken Bucket and Floyd of Rosedale and so on. And my 10-year-old son says, why don't you do it? And I got to thinking, well, why not? So ran it by some of my buddies. We did a bunch of things together. Ben can fill you in on some of that.
Or were you a trophy maker or something? Do you know something about this? Or
absolutely nothing. No. I was, in fact, at the time I had just wrapped up 10 years as a heavy equipment operator and was embarking on a new career in real estate.
But were you a handy guy? Were you somebody that could make a trophy?
No. I didn't design. Technically, I did not design the trophy. We came up with this idea. We went to... it was actually a trophy shop over there by Drake, Academy Awards.
Oh, yeah.
And we stood there with the owner, Ken Pogue, and kind of penciled out ideas.
Which ends up being a football. I think almost anybody who can hear my voice right now knows the original Cyhawk trophy, and we've taken it on the road with us on RVTV for years, and people consider this the trophy even today. But there's the football and the football player on the big base, and then there's all the engravings of the winner of the game by year on the front and sides of the trophy.
Right, and as you look at the front of the trophy, on the left side you'll see Cy the Cardinal facing inward, and on the other side, on the right-hand side, you'll see Herky the Hawk facing back. And it was Bob Updegraff, one of my partners in this project, that looked at it as we were laying this all out and said, Cy Hawk. He said, this is the Cy Hawk trophy. That's how the name came to be.
But so you get this trophy, but that doesn't automatically mean the schools are going to accept it, right? And that it's going to become a part of this game, right? I mean, you can't just go up and say, "Hey guys, got your trophy."
We started on this somewhere.
How did that work out?
So we started on this somewhere around December of '76, and I think we got the trophy. We actually got the trophy back in late May, early June '77. And that's exactly right. All of a sudden it hit us, what do we do with this?
Right. Yeah.
So what was your first move? You've got the trophy. And by this time, do you have the name Cyhawk, which, by the way, that's now like a trademark name that helps some big corporations make a lot of money.
That's right. And we never thought, of course, anything about that. No, it says the Cyhawk Trophy right on the front, the center plaque. Cyhawk Trophy, Greater Des Moines Athletic Club. That was what we actually incorporated. And we're a nonprofit, but we first took it down to the Des Moines Register, thinking maybe they would want to do something, co-sponsor with us. And after about 24 hours, they said no. Since I was in real estate, I was talking to a loan officer one day, a good friend of mine, at one of actually the state's largest savings and loan associations at the time. And he found out about this, and he said, just a minute. He said, let me put you in touch with our marketing and promotion people. They called us. We went down, met with them. They loved it. They designed a program around it. The Savings and Loan was going to co-sponsor it with us. They were going to take it to Riverboat Days in Clinton, the Iowa State Fair, and tag all their advertising with it. And it turns out higher-ups at that Savings and Loan vetoed it. It was controversial for some people.
So you're off to a rough start here, getting somebody to back you up on this. And we're talking with Bob Utes, one of the co-creators of the original Cyhawk Trophy, and Ben Godar, who is the director, filmmaker of birth of the Cyhawk. So how did you finally get them to say, okay, we're going to use your trophy? And did that happen in time for the first game in '77?
Yes. I think it was sometime in early July, and we were starting to get pretty nervous. Picked up the Register one day, and there was a little tiny article that said Governor Ray had a daughter at Iowa and a daughter at Iowa State, and he'd be at the game sitting on one side for one half and the other side for the other half.
Boy, he was a skilled politician. Yeah.
The man was good. Miss him dearly. And we thought, perfect. And somehow Updegraff got a hold of Dave Ullman, who was the governor's right-hand man, and got us in for an appointment. And we literally took the trophy up to the Capitol and asked the governor if he would present it.
And he said
you
yes.
went and pitched it to the governor.
Exactly.
And did you appeal to him through his daughters? And now you've got a daughter at both sides. They need a trophy.
No, I think he understood all that. He knew it was big. I mean, he was a savvy Iowan, also a native of Des Moines, and he knew that this was a natural. I mean, we did this for two reasons. First of all, we thought there should be a trophy, but remember, they were only signed up to play 6 games.
It's just so funny to think that the schools were this reluctant to do this. And it's probably not surprising they didn't come up with a trophy, because maybe a lot of people there are thinking that maybe this is only 6 years and then it goes back away again.
Yeah. We actually wanted this trophy presented on the field. The governor wanted to present it on the field after the game, too. I actually have a letter from him, or from his office, on that. But the University of Iowa said no. The AD up there...
They're just pushing back. The AD so hard on a trophy. What's up? Everybody likes a trophy.
His argument was there were going to be riots and fights after the game.
Oh, my God.
Gosh, man. Yeah.
Well, I cannot. This sounds like it's like 1878.
So when did it originate that the winning team either storms across the field or immediately takes it and starts holding it up over their heads.
Right. That was probably about 5 years in.
Okay.
The governor presented it the first couple of years, and then after he left office, we actually presented to Donnie Duncan down here one Monday at the Cyclone Club, and then we presented to the AD over at Iowa City after they won it. And then it just, actually, I think after a while it fell into Iowa's hands for so long. But it just started.
Iowa kept it for a long time.
That they started just passing it back and forth.
So Ben, as you're putting together this documentary on the trophy and its inception, what else are you uncovering about this story along the way as it came to be?
Oh boy, that's a good question. It's interesting. Just to get a taste of what it was like in '77, and I think Bob kind of gave you a little bit of that there. We talked to Max Urich, who was a former AD at Iowa State, and actually was there in '77 and kind of worked with Bob a little bit on it. And he kind of reinforced some of what Bob was saying about just some of this. Trepidation almost with this series starting. There was feelings like, gosh, is this gonna, is this gonna be a friendly rivalry or is this gonna be an unfriendly rivalry?
Because my understanding was that the reason they got rid of the game to begin with is that things got too heated. Am I right about that?
Yeah, that's my understanding as well. Or I've heard people say that, although I haven't exactly uncovered what specifically that meant.
Stuff like that has a tendency to become a legend, but I don't. That's what I've always heard.
I think that dates back to, there really were three eras in this game, and the first one goes way back to 1894 when they first played. And in that first year they played up until 1920, almost every year. I think there were 4 years they didn't. But you got to remember that college football was really crazy in the 19th and early 20th century. President Teddy Roosevelt threatened to have it shut down in 1907. That's really when you get the scoring standardized, the field gets made standard. But prior to that, there were guys getting killed. I mean, it was crazy. So that it kind of settled down in around 1907, I think, when the forerunner of the NCAA was formed and they started standardizing everything and cleaning it up a little. I'm not quite sure. I know Iowa State, of course, it was Iowa State College then, built their stadium in the teens somewhere. Iowa didn't build their big stadium, what's now Kinnick, until the 20s. I'm not sure what all the reasons were, but yeah.
Yeah, so we're seeing why this is able to be an entire film here, because there's a lot of ground to cover and so much passion involved, and everybody kind of comes at it through their own lens of their side of the rivalry, I think, as we talk about this trophy. And it's been an interesting part of my life because 15 or 20 years ago on Sound Off, when I was younger and didn't realize how much I didn't know, one of the things I advocated for on the air was a better-looking trophy. I thought, we got this Cy-Hawk game. This looks like a trophy you might see at a bowling alley or something. It's it's such a simple design. Let's get something more elaborate. And thinking I knew everything about everything, I said all that, and then I heard from Bob's son, Tyler Hutz, who proceeded to tell me the whole history of this, and these guys with no agenda in the basement just trying to do something for the state, and the passion they had, and no corporations, no sponsorship involved, just this organic thing that came about. Well, then I just feel like a chump. I'm like, oh, gosh. Well, next thing I know, the trophy, not based on anything I said, but based on corporate dollars, the trophy does go away. And then, first we have the Pewter family, which was just an absolute disaster. And then after that, you have a trophy that looks like it was designed by a focus group. There's just nothing original or organic about it at all. And then just to go full circle on this, now I'm traveling each year with the original Cy-Hawk trophy, and people get emotional about this trophy. I mean, they pose with it. They put it in their Facebook pages, their Christmas cards.
Yeah,
you left out the one that came apart on national television.
The temporary trophy for 1 year.
The Nerf football on a stick,
Yeah, that was bad.
Well, it's funny you mentioned that, just that reaction people have with the trophy, which of course we've been able to see as well as we take it around. And just kind of timely today, last fall we were up in Iowa State with the trophy, and we were just kind of taking it around to show it to people and get their reaction for the film. So we took it to Hickory Park, because where are you going to find people and names? And I think the third guy who came walking up, his name was Randy Cook. Turns out he played for Iowa State from 75 to 80. So he played in that very first game, saw the trophy, came walking up, picked it up, hoisted it over his head, and said, "This is for you, Earl Bruce," and just went on and told us this, told us about what his memories of the game and everything. And so, but yeah, you see that, even little kids, who they don't even maybe remember this trophy, but they just, the feelings they have for the rivalry and everything, people just kind of light up when they see it. So
tell us about the status of this documentary, and is it fully made? Where can you see this?
Yeah, well, it's we've done a lot of the production already, so we've shot a lot of interviews already, and that's allowed us to cut a nice looking trailer together and everything, and make it look like the film is done. But but that's all a trick, because no, we're moving into post production primarily now and trying to finish things up, and that's where a lot of the cost comes in making something like this. So we are running a crowdfunding campaign right now. It's on Indiegogo, which is like Kickstarter. If folks aren't familiar with that. Trying to raise money to help us push through, finish that post-production. And if we can raise that money, we think we'll have this film ready this fall, in time for the game. We're planning to, do screenings around the state. We think we might be able to do a statewide TV broadcast. That's not 100% locked up yet, but yeah. So if folks want to know more about this story, and it is an amazing story we've just kind of touched on here, the easiest thing for them to do probably is to go to cyhawkdocumentary.com. There's a link right there that'll get them right into our Indiegogo campaign.
Yeah, and with the contributions, you have some cool things that you get in return, everything from posters to VIP seating at the screening, stuff like that.
Yep. People can get a digital copy of the film. They can get autographed posters. They can tickets to the premiere. We even have, if folks want to go together and have a private screening put together, things like that. All kinds of nice perks there. So.
We've linked to it on Twitter and Facebook. Yeah, you can even have the Cyhawk Trophy at a tailgate. That's the big one.
That's the big one. That's the big one. Hey, for anybody at one of the large corporations that's listening that wants to.
And Bob Utes, this is overdue, but my apologies for as a younger man calling for something without fully appreciating what we already had. My apology.
No problem. We just want the game to be played forever and ever.
Well, we're on our way. It seems like it's going pretty well, right? All right. Well, gentlemen, thank you for coming into studio. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks so much for having us.
All right. Back with Throwdowns.